Hi, I'm Sarah Barrett Neal, Gallery Manager with the Glen Arbor Arts Center. From January 7 through April 13, we'll be exhibiting Woodland Studies, a series of black and white photographs by Grand Rapids photographer Rodney Martin. The region's woodlands, rivers, and natural areas are well documented by all manner of visual artists. In this case, however, Rodney Martin has elected to make images in black and white, and I think that's a creative departure worth exploring. Welcome, Rodney.
Good morning.
I'm going to begin by getting one of your images up on the screen here so we can talk about it. Let's see, this one is called Morning Reflection. Although you photograph in color, you choose to work in black and white for Woodland Studies. Talk about that decision.
My decision to work in black and white has really been an effort to help me develop my skill of composition. In black and white, I'm looking at how light, how texture, how form all contribute to a photograph. And certainly color is one element in a photograph, but color doesn't always add something to the photograph, and sometimes it can be distracting. So if I find a photograph that I think will be more compelling or get across what I'm trying to convey without the color, I can leave it out and have a stronger composition. You know, photography is really a subtractive process, unlike painting. You know, in painting, a painter starts with a blank canvas and adds pigment to it until she gets what she wants on the canvas. I go out into the woods and they're very chaotic and I have to make sense of them. So I have to figure out where to stand and how to crop and when to shoot and what things to leave out of the image to make the more compelling composition. So I think sometimes working in black and white just makes that a little bit easier.
I think creatively speaking, color in photography often is expected to do a lot of the heavy creative lifting. There's plenty of color in the world and it's intoxicating, but that doesn't always carry the day, does it?
No, I think that's right. And color, I think, can have kind of an immediate impact. Pardon me, phone ringing. Color can have an immediate impact, but maybe not a lasting impact on the viewer, and certainly can get in the way of conveying what you want to convey.
Are there other technical and aesthetic challenges inherent to photographing in black and white, aside from the fact that we don't see a lot of black and white images anymore?
Well, you know, technically, it's not that difficult to shoot them. My camera records an image in color and I can convert it to black and white easily in Photoshop or in Lightroom. Aesthetically, it's more of a challenge. Trying to identify a scene that's going to work well in black and white is a challenge. And of course, it helps. I can turn my viewfinder on my camera to black and white so I can see the image there, or I have what's called a Ratten 90 filter that I can hold up to my eye and it turns a scene monochromatic, so I can envision it that way. I think the real challenge is in the digital darkroom when you're editing a photo to make sure that you get a range of tones. In black and white photography, you really have to have a gradation of tones. If you don't separate the tones, the tones get very muddy. The image gets very muddy. And I had that problem in one of the images that's in the exhibition called Bright Spot, where there are a lot of ferns on the floor of the forest. And I printed that so many times because when it would come out of the printer, it would just be one muddy mass. And I just kept working at separating the tones until the texture came out. So.
And in that respect, your concerns are much like those of a painter who's interested in color values and the relative perception of light and dark. Otherwise, the images just look like it's a flat surface.
That's right.
Without all those separations you're talking about. We live in a very visual time, and most every person on the face of the planet now walks around with a phone in their pocket, which has a fabulous camera built into it. So we get images at a fast and furious pace. The images in Woodland Studies are a different case. Making these images is not quick work. So explain why your work moves at a slower pace.
Well, woodlands by their nature are very messy and chaotic. It takes some time to find a composition and that cuts through the clutter. And it means walking around, looking at an image. It means moving the camera up or down, left or right. Maybe it's taking 5 steps this way or that way, or maybe it's just moving 2 inches this way or that way. When you're doing portrait photography, which I'm really awful at, you can tell people to move this way, turn this way, but trees just don't respond that way. And so you've got to worry about how things are lining up and whether you're standing in the right spot. And then there's often the time just spent waiting for the right conditions. I'll get, and I always work on a tripod, which helps to slow me down. And I'll have it all set up, all ready to go. And suddenly a cloud will block out the sun. So all the light and the shadow that I was aiming for disappears. And so I'm standing there looking at the sky, waiting for the, trying to figure out how long that cloud's going to take to move out of the way to get my composition back. Or wind. I deal with wind a lot. If you want a nice sharp image, you can't have wind. And so you're waiting for the wind to die down and things like that. But, you know, I like the slow process. I like being in the woods and just contemplating what I'm looking at. It's not how many images I walk away with, but just whether I'm happy with the ones I get.
There's some elements of Buddhism in it, just being there now, then, right.
It is a very present moment kind of photography. That's right.
I'm going to stop the share here, and we'll get another picture up on the screen. Let me see. Bear with me while I do this. Oops, that's the wrong one. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Gathering Place is the title of this photograph. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, this is actually a good example of why it takes time. It took me so many times to get this photo right. I went back. This was shot in the Teichner Preserve over on Lime Lake. And I went back maybe 4 or 5 times to get this photo and try to figure out where to stand to tell the story of this gathering of roots. And, you know, to me, this is a picture of trees somehow communicating. It's community. But I took this shot from all different angles and all different heights before I finally found one that conveyed what I wanted to convey.
You can't have your mind be somewhere else while you're doing this work. It's got to be focused right on the thing you're looking at.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Tell me why you like walking around in natural places.
You know, it's really peacefulness. It's quiet. I was out early this morning before sunrise. We had 2 inches of snow last night, and I went out to an area that I frequent. I was the first footprints there. I did take a camera, but it was just, it's a wonderful place to get in touch with nature and to get in touch with yourself and your own feelings. And then there's the other aspect of it is discovery. Walking through the woods, I'll see things that I didn't expect to see. I have to remember to look up, look down, look in all different directions. And it's just a constant process of discovery.
So then let's extrapolate from there. How does walking around in natural places with or without a camera influence how you walk around the world just in general?
Well, Dorothea Lange, the great photographer who took Migrant Mother years ago, was famous for saying a camera is a tool for learning how to see without a camera. When I walk in the woods or when I'm driving down the road, I am now looking for light. I'm looking for shadow. I'm looking for form. I see things hopefully for a little bit more what they are rather than kind of the fleeting image. But it's light, it's shadow, it's line, it's tone. I'm probably a dangerous driver because I'm looking for these things. And one of the photos in the exhibit, the photo of the orchard, I was driving by 55 miles an hour and saw that out of the corner of my eye and did a U-turn and whipped back to get it. But it's just, once you start looking at the world through a photographer's eyes, you start seeing it differently.
You printed the images in Woodland Studies. Explain why you did the work yourself as opposed to sending it off to a commercial printer.
Well, probably control. I'm a control freak. I wanted to control the transfer of the image to the paper. We're really used to looking at images on screen today. Very few people look at a photograph on a wall. Maybe some look at it in books, but even photography books, the section at the bookstore of photography books now is that wide. I was there the other day, and it used to be a whole section. We look at images on screen, and the images on the screen are very different from on paper. The image on the screen is backlit. When you're converting it to paper, it's reflected light, and there are adjustments that have to be made. The choice of the paper, you have to understand the paper and how the ink is going to be received by the paper. And so, all of the images in the exhibition I printed several times in order to get it the way that I thought it should be. So I could have had a commercial photographer do it. There are some wonderful, or processor do it. There are wonderful firms that do that, but in the end, what fun would that be, and what would I learn if I let somebody else do it? Printing has really added a dimension to what I do. And it's really increased the satisfaction that I have in creating the photographs.
Let's talk just a second about what you would like viewers to know when they come see your images.
Well, I think the images can be looked at on 3 different levels. The formal level, which I've talked about, line, shape, and how I use those things, line, shape, form, texture, and all to create the image. And then there's the technical level, the use of depth of field, the angle of view. This gathering place is an example of that, where I used the angle of view to finally get it the way I wanted. I had shot it above, I shot it below. But those are technical. But then there's the conceptual level, and that is, what is the image trying to say? Minor White talked about taking photographs for what they are and for what else they are. And I guess it's the what else they are that is what's important about these images to me. Each one captures a feeling that I wanted to share. Gathering place here is a sense of community, a sense of place. There's a centrality here that you don't really see in the woods necessarily, but here these trees got together and formed it. Uprooted, another image in the exhibition, is all about struggle to me. Morning Reflections, the one we saw earlier, is all about order. And so each of the images has that feel. And I hope that people will take the time, unlike on Instagram where you're flipping with your thumb through images, that they'll take the time to look at the images and see what they convey to them.
I'm going to stop the share now and go back to you and me. Again, we come back to the whole issue of time and being present. I don't think that there's a better gift that the arts can give to people than an opportunity to engage in something that then asks them to be still for a moment or go into a different place for a moment. And speaking from a very personal perspective, I started out learning about photography when all I shot was black and white. And the first time I shot color film, it hit me like a ton of bricks, what I had learned about looking at the world being contained by a 50 millimeter lens and black and white film. I wish that I had the opportunity to go back and think about that again, because it was just such an enriching time. So thank you. I'm so glad we have Woodland Studies in our lobby gallery. And again, those images will be on the wall until April 13. They can also be viewed online at the Glen Arbor Arts Center website. Just click on the exhibits tab. Thanks so much, Rodney. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.